All right, the Seahawks went down into Los Angeles, the city of angels, and took care of business. Wasn't a pretty game. May have been one of the more uglier games of all year. You had to fight, scratch, crawl your way to get this dub. And from some fans' standpoint, they're going to look at this game and go, this is a bad loss. You have the Rams coming into this game, no Cooper Kupp, no Matt Stafford, no Aaron Donald, no A'Shawn Robinson, no Allen Robinson. All the A. Robinsons were out. It felt like half the club was gone there for the Rams team in this game, and still they found a way somehow or another to stay in it against this Seattle Seahawks group. But nonetheless, the Hawks were able to pull it out on the end. And this game started out with the Rams doing a lot of what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers had done in prior weeks, a lot of what the Raiders had done last week, and that is we're going to hammer the running game, and we're going to start to try to wear you down over the course of this game. And it worked initially. They got an opening drive, went right up the football field, was able to score a touchdown, and it looked like this was going to be very much reminiscent of what we've seen over the past couple of weeks and when things have gone really bad for our defense over the course of this year. Luckily, the defense over the course of the game kind of found a way to just find some adjustments, find some way to just tap down that running game just a little bit. The Rams weren't able to necessarily run as much with Akers over the course of the game, though they did find some success running some fly sweeps and getting to the edges of the Seahawks defense with Powell. Still, the Seahawks defense did enough to keep them away from touchdowns, keep them into field goals as you got into that second half, and allow the Seahawks offense to kind of carry it through the end of the day. As the Seahawks offense was pretty consistent throughout the course of this ball game, with the exception of a couple of places. They weren't necessarily able to run the ball as well as you'd like. Kenneth Walker started out this game with a 30-yard run, and then from there, the running game was really having uphill sledding all the way through. Some of the same sort of things we've seen where there wasn't a lot of yards being created as far as a lot of holes being opened up by the offensive line, a lot of early penetration. It was going to be very much tough sledding. This meant, as it has meant over the past at least 3 weeks and on a lot of the football games this year, that it was going to be solely on Geno Smith's arm to carry the day. It was going to be on him, and it wasn't going to be easy. He wasn't going to have the benefit of having a running game in his back pocket to keep the defense honest. Indeed, the defense could be dishonest in this game in the way that they played the Seahawks offense, in the way that they tried to maybe kind of squeeze some of those passing routes down just a little bit more. And yet, Geno was able to still be a very, very good, if not great, I'm going to say play great throughout the course of this game. 28 of 39, 367 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, 116 rating, 9.4 yards per average per attempt. He was fantastic across the board. He was doing with all of the same things we've seen this year, showing all of those same traits. Part of some of the folks that have had some reticence with believing in Geno have said, well, how do we know that this performance is going to last? How do we know that this is going to remain sustainable? And one of the reasons I say and remain saying that this is going to be sustainable is, number one, you're 12 games into this year where he's given you a consistent performance in every one of those games. So that first off should be a pretty good indicator that this is going to be sustainable beyond this year. But the other thing is it's sustainable because of the way that he's doing it, how he's winning football games. And he's doing it with control at the line of scrimmage. He's doing it by understanding what the defense is trying to do against him. He's understanding it with his reads and where he needs to go with the ball. He's understanding it with his pocket movement, where today it was not as much about scrambling or getting out of trouble. It was a subtle movement to his left, a subtle step to his right, climbing the ladder of the pocket in another moment, keeping himself a little bit more longer alive in the pocket to let the routes develop, and then unleashing a great throw with pressure in his face, right on the money, time and time again. The Rams defense doesn't make it easy on you. They're not going to send the same look at you every time. It's going to try to confuse you at points, but Geno was really on it and not caught in confusion very often. He had the one interception, which wasn't the greatest of throws, but beyond that interception, it was pretty flawless along the board with the exception of that. And again, showing off the great arm talent he has as well with it. You have the deep throw to DK Metcalf in this game. You've got a lot of anticipatory throws where he's throwing the ball before the receiver is even out of his break. There was a throw to Noah Fant in this game where they're bringing the pressure based. He's got to get the ball out of his hands. Fant's not out of his break yet. Geno throws it before that point, gets the ball right on the spot to Noah Fant, where not only is it a good throw where he makes the catch, but he puts the ball in a spot with Noah Fant where he can then get the ball up the football field, get some yards after the catch, which is just another thing that stands out with Geno Smith that he does in his throws. He puts those guys in a position where they can catch the ball and then they can do something with it after the catch, not merely getting it to him where they've got to jump up away from him or backside away from him where the ball's placed, but right on the button where they can turn and get upfield. You saw this on the Tyler Lockett touchdown catch, where Tyler Lockett, the guy that people people hammer a lot for not getting a lot of yak yards and falling down was with where he put that catch, able to then break the tackle and get into the end zone on that first touchdown for the Seahawks. He was absolutely phenomenal today was Geno throughout. But the one last final refuge that the haters have for Geno Smith, the one final place, because you can't go at anything else in his game. There's nowhere you can attack where, he doesn't throw for far enough yards. 9.4 yards attempt. Well, he doesn't throw a touchdown. 3 touchdowns thrown in this game. The one spot, the one place they could go to, and that's kind of been a valid spot to go to with Geno, is he doesn't come big when you need him to. He doesn't step up large when the game is on the line. When it's in the fourth quarter and you're down by points and you need a drive, that's when he's going to wilt. That's when he's going to disappear. That's when he's going to tank. And look, you haven't had any comeback wins really in that realm of things this year, though there have been times he's shown resiliency, like the Cardinal game where he throws an interception in the third quarter, puts the Cardinals up by 4 points. You go, okay, if you're going to the tank there, he certainly wouldn't have 3 straight touchdown drives that he executed as he did in that game. But this is still, I'll give these people a little bit of a modicum of validity behind it, even though I don't really believe in it. And he showed you today, he took those haters with that last little refuge that they had, and he wiped it off the board. Because he took that team on a 75-yard drive right up the football field, right when you needed it, when you had to have a score, and he took him up and he finished that game off. And it was throw after throw, and it wasn't perfect and it wasn't easy. You had the one point where Tyler Lockett's running an in-cutting route, and he sits down, and Geno ends up throwing it to where he thinks Tyler's going to keep going. He didn't let that get him stuck in his head like, God, why didn't Tyler keep throwing that? That's a completed pass if he just keeps running. Comes right back and makes a great throw right after that. And again, the resiliency with Geno has been there throughout the course of this year, time and time again, and you saw it again today. But that was a fourth quarter comeback drive. That was a drive when you needed it, when the game is on the line, when there are no more room for error. No more room for failures. You've got to make perfect throw after perfect throw. And again, remembering, doing it while he has no running game. For though you had all the time in the world to get that drive up the football field, you didn't have a lot of confidence that you could go to the running game because you were down to, of course, your 4th, 5th running back at this point in the game. Because Kenneth Walker went down very early to a foot injury in this game. Then DJ Dallas had himself a foot injury in this game. He was trying to gut it out and did some tough runs later on in the game. But Seahawks were having to go to Tony Jones Jr., not Rashad Penny, not Kenneth Walker, not DJ Dallas, not Travis Homer. We're to Tony Jones Jr. And again, in appreciating this performance from Geno Smith, the 360 yards thrown, the 3 touchdowns thrown, the comeback in the fourth quarter. Understand that not only is it appreciative, those are great statistics just from the quarterback position, regardless of what you're seeing with the running backs and what's going on with them. But the fact that he has no running game and he's performing in that way should just once again endear you that much more to him, should start to convince some of those people that have been ardent anti-Geno folks saying, I don't want to re-sign him. There's no way, no shape, no how. Well, maybe there's somehow a shape now. But maybe there is somehow a way you're willing to do it. Because as I argue in the test, you're getting top 5 quarterback play from Geno right now. From the position right now, you're getting this. And you should get into the foreseeable future. He's 31 years old. He's not going to be over the hill moving on into next year. So if the performance is sustainable and you're getting top 5 quarterback play right now, shouldn't this have more of a saying it's time to look at signing him to a contract extension this offseason? And I think it will. I think there'll be many more folks out there going, yes, this is the right decision to make. I think he's finally starting to convert some of those last disbelievers that remain out there. And how can there be any disbelievers that do remain after a game like this, after the type of season that Geno has brought to bear for this football team? He's not done it alone. The Seahawks receivers were really good in this game as well. Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf, I called them the dynamic duo that never sleeps a couple weeks ago in a video I made. And that is just what they showed you again in this particular game. 17 catches between the two of these guys. 250 yards receiving between the two of them. You had 20 targets, 17 catches on those 20 targets. So they're doing it efficiently. It wasn't that they got to these 17 catches because you threw the ball 35 times to both of the two of them. They efficiently are thrown to. They make their catches when they have the chance to do it. DK Metcalf, a lot like with Geno, I think he can hopefully continues maybe on through this season to quiet down some of those small contingent of folks out there that like to pick apart his game. There's a drop, there's the fumble, or he comes out in this game, he's targeted 8 times, 8 catches, 127 yards. He came up big in this game. He got up over the top and beat coverage over the top in this game, took the top of the defense off, but then he really capped it off in that final catch, didn't he? It was shades of the Minnesota Viking game in the comeback a couple of years ago where he's running a crosser route on Jalen Ramsey, mano a mano, one of the best, if not the best corners in the game, according to the pundits and the analysts out there. DK beat him like a drum, got inside, got a little bit of separation, raised his arm up for Geno, said, "Put the ball in here, Geno. I got this. Put it on me. Put it on my shoulders." That's what you want from your team leaders. That's what you want them to do. There wasn't wilting there. There wasn't getting smaller in the moment. Instead, you got guys that get bigger in the moment. Tyler Lockett gets bigger in the moment. DK gets bigger in the moment. Geno gets bigger in the moment. And this is stuff that is not just about enjoying it for this year, the hopeful where this takes us this year, having guys like this, performing like this. This is for what this could take us on into the future, having guys like this on this football field. So a tremendous job by the wide receivers to work in tandem with Geno Smith. I thought the tight ends were, again, solid today. 4 catches, 42 yards for Noah Fant for a touchdown. Disley got in on only 2 catches for 22 yards. And then you even had Colby Parkinson get in the mix for 1 catch for 12 yards. So in themselves, none of them were amazing, but you put the collection of those 3 tight ends together and the production that you got from them in tandem with what you got from the receiving core, you needed every bit of that. You need all of those guys in the receiving game to be an impact because you're not really getting much as far as from the running game goes. And so it's got to be everybody else carrying this thing a little bit more forward at that point. Tip of the cap's got to go to Tariq Woolen as well in this game. He got his 6th interception. I don't know why teams keep testing him on the 9 routes. He's got to be getting to a place that a lot of the same spot that Richard Sherman got to, that you just don't throw a 9 route on this guy. Try every other type of route you want in the game. You need to take the 9 routes and put a big X over the top of those in your playbook. Because if you run the 9 route on Tariq Woolen, he's going to pick you off. He had 1 interception that was pure on that kind of route in this game where he completely baited the receiver. It's a wheel route to the running back, and Tariq tries to act like he's kind of playing it lazy, but he knows he's got the speed to catch up on that play, which is exactly what he did. He almost did it to Wolford again later on in the game, where same thing, he tried to kind of bait him and let the guy get a little, you could see Woolen wasn't trying to run fast right off the jump, just kind of just slow playing it a little bit, and was able to come back and then make a play on that ball, but it almost came back to be able to make an interception on that one. This kid is on a superstar trajectory. He is heading to that place, and he's landing there sooner than later. He should absolutely be the defensive rookie of the year. These guys don't come in and just get 6 interceptions, 7 interceptions, 8 interceptions, wherever he will end out at in their rookie season. For him to do this as a guy who came in so raw, as many players have commented, he's just doing this on natural athletic ability right now. What happens when the light bulb turns on? What happens when he starts to recognize what he's seeing out there? What happens when he's able to start baiting more often than not these quarterbacks in the way he was starting to do in this game, where you start to see maybe a little bit of the advancement of his game taking place as we move on into the depths of this year. So fantastic job there by him to provide that turnover at that time. It was a huge moment in that game where the Rams were starting to drive to the Seahawks side of the football field. Things were looking a little bit shaky defensively. That did help to hem things up a little bit, which was very encouraging to see. Uchenna Nwosu came out, had another good game after a couple of very quiet games as of recent. He had a couple sacks in this game. I thought he was one of the guys really truly getting some consistent pressure back in there on John Wolford when he would drop back to pass, which was good to see. I'd also like to give a tip of the cap to Jordan Brooks and Cody Barton. I've definitely been a little bit hard on those guys throughout the course of this year at times, and rightfully so. They've struggled in the running game, and they've struggled against the pass. I think in both elements today, they were overall both pretty darn solid. You saw, of course, Cody Barton make an interception at the end of this game. I think, was it second or third interception this year for him? But he was also there and good in coverage in a couple of other points in this game as well. Both were relatively on it in the running game. If you look at this game, Cam Akers, 17 carries, 60 yards, 3.5 yard per carry average. I think you'll take that. You don't like the Brandon Powell 3 carries for 45 yards in tandem with Tutu Atwell's 4 carries for 23 yards. The Rams really utilized that fly sweep game in a lot of ways like how I would like to see our Seahawks use it, where you do commit to running it 5-6 times a game, make the defense prove they can stop it, because more often than not, there's going to be 5, 6, 7 yards of free space there on those fly sweep kind of runs. But overall, I thought that the linebackers played solid. In coverage, I think both Mike Jackson and Trey Brown, who kind of were interchanged out in this game, had some kind of up and down days here a little bit. Good to see Ryan Neal come out with Quandre Diggs. I think those guys on the back end did a good job of keeping things covered up pretty well. And I've got to tip my cap to Al Woods as well, who, though he works off of a rotational snap basis because the guy's 35 years old, he does make impact when he's in there. He plays like a guy who's, trying to earn his way on an NFL roster with the kind of effort that he puts out there. You can't trot him out for 60, 70% of the snaps, and that's where a lot of our run game will go wrong at times, is when he then gets taken off the field, I kind of feel like. But he's another guy who's been an unsung hero on this defense that throughout the most of this year has struggled a little bit. Also, final little tip of the cap to the special teams in this. I thought Dixon punted really well in this game when you asked him to. There were some moments and times where you flipped the field with Dixon, and you needed to, because it was going to put them on a little bit of a longer field. He had 2 kicks, only 2 punts in this game for Dixon because the offense was doing so well, but 114 yards on those kicks, averaged 57 per attempt with a 62 long. Jason Myers also came to play today, hit 2 of 2 on his field goals, 3 of 3 on his extra points. I like to point out to the special teams, I like to keep an eye on them, because remembering, this is a strength of this team. This is something that helps you win football games, and by design, and by the way that Coach Carroll has set this team up. So props to the special teams unit for continuing to be an outstanding element of this team throughout just about every single game this season, with maybe just a couple of exceptions. It was going to take a team effort today. It was going to take everybody to pull their oar on their side of the boat to get this victory in. And you certainly would have loved to have been able to run away with this game, to be able to lap the Rams, them being down so many players. But it's on the road. It's against a division foe. Those games, regardless of injury situation, tend to be games that are pretty tight, pretty close. And at the end of the day, you're just trying to find the track to get yourself to getting to that division title, to having a chance to fight for a division title this year. And indeed, you maintain that possibility. This season right now is fully within your Seattle Seahawks grasp. You can pick them apart. You can say they don't have enough of this. They don't have enough of that. They're not good enough here. And you can do all that picking apart and all that nitpicking. But at the end of the day, you're 7-5. And you're the 7th seed to go in the playoffs right now, and you have everything in your grasp to go out there and take. You can talk about all the limitations or all the benefits this team has, but nobody can argue with the fact that you have everything right there in front of you. It's all well within your grasp. Now you just got to go take it. Now you just got to go snag it. We'll see if our Seahawks will, but one hell of a win today, a win that's going to put a smile on my face no matter how ugly it is, and it should for you guys too.